Good evening, everyone. It's my privilege and honor to introduce our next speaker, Mr. Amit Sahi. Mr. Amit Sahi is a senior capital market professional with over 22 years of core financial exchange experience across broad spectrum of business areas, including market model, microstructure, strategy, and market positioning. Over the last 2 decades, Mr. Amit has worked with leading exchange including Bombay Stock Exchange in India, Nasdaq in Dubai, and Dubai Gold and Commodities. Mr. Amit currently heads market development initiatives on ADX with a focus on building new products and platform to enable new product opportunities on the ADX market. He led the launch of derivative segment on ADX in November 2022. May I please follow up Mr. Amit with a huge round of applause.
Good evening, everyone. Respected Dr. Murli, Chairman John, Vice Chairman Krishnan, my colleague and senior Mohammed, my colleagues from ADX and Arams, and all the fellow chartered accountants of my homeland, India. It's an honor to stand here before you to give you a new perspective from a market which is the premier market, Abu Dhabi, the Stock Exchange of Abu Dhabi, ADX. I will be here to present you the new opportunities which are emerging, and basically the flow of my presentation is going to be, I'm going to do a top, bottom, kind of a down, an overview of the Indian economy first, very specifically talking about what are the trends, what is driving the markets, and then I will move to ADX specifically. The idea here is to give you the exchange perspective of what the investment landscape is and what it is emerging. And then I will briefly talk about the IPO landscape currently in Abu Dhabi and the UAE. My colleague Meridien would be delving more deeply into individual companies on the IPOs and the investment opportunities. And then I'll be talking about two important platforms on the ADX. One is the ETF and the other is the derivatives platform. And then we'll be talking about the ADX initiatives in terms of investor engagements and what are the emerging opportunities and how you can participate in those particular opportunities. First of all, I'm a bit moved after Dr. Murli's speech and as John alluded to in terms of ChatGPT, and I almost feel like an illiterate because I spent 3 long days over the long weekend to put up the slides here. So I was kind of disoriented when I came to the stage. And also thinking, how long are we going to be, still relevant in the industry? But so long we are there, and I think most of us are well ahead in our careers in terms of number of years, so we are in good stead. But it does give us a reason to think about what the future is going to be. Coming back to the present, I would also, touch base on certain companies and certain industries which are growing so significantly at the back of the disruption that is happening in the technological world. So let me begin with the landscape, which is the regional macroeconomic environment. We have seen a different world. People who have been here in the region since a couple of decades know how the country has grown, UAE from the year 2000. In fact, ADX, as we call ourselves, the exchange, and DFM, our brother exchange in Dubai, both of the exchanges started in the year 2000, and we celebrated our 23rd birthday in November this year, last month. So it's a pretty young environment, but if you see the last 2 decades and how the region has grown, it has been phenomenal. And what is driving now is what is happening in the post-COVID era when the world was taken by surprise by the outbreak of the COVID, and then the spending that started by the government, the waking up that happened with some of the economies which were resource-based, and then followed that by a significant resurgence in most of the global economies, and then the starting of the geopolitical risk with the conflict, Russia invading Ukraine, and then more recently the Israel-Hamas conflict bringing in new geopolitical risks. All these factors, along with the intent of the regional governments to diversify from their traditional oil-based economies into non-oil industries, has led to a significant upsurge in terms of investment opportunities, in terms of number of companies that are now taking the route to go public, the government divesting some of their jewels, the government jewels. We've seen that happen in Saudi Arabia with the listing of Aramco. We've seen that happening with the ADNOC group companies on ADX in the last couple of years. And all this is adding to a very, very encouraging and optimistic environment in the regional and the local stock markets. With the result, we see that the country and the region, which used to get not even $1 billion in terms of FDI, has suddenly started to attract a huge amount of FDI in terms of direct investments into different sectors. Now, this graph is very interesting. It shows the FDI growth from 2018 up till 2022. And it has grown significantly in the post-COVID era. And from the year 2020 and 2021, we have seen consistent FDI inflows of more than $20 billion in the UAE. It's touched $23 billion this year until now. And it is expected that it might go to 35 and 40 billion in the next couple of years. Now, if you see the graph here, it is very interesting that within the region, Saudi Arabia is the largest economy and UAE is the #2 economy. But in terms of FDI flows, the UAE is far ahead of Saudi Arabia. And what this underscores is the confidence that the foreign investors put in the regime of the UAE as a more stable destination for stable and long-term capital. Now I will come to the exchange, ADX, and give you some interesting facts. Probably a lot of the people here may not know how ADX is actually placed. Obviously, sometimes it becomes confusing because in the UAE, we are not the only exchange. Dubai has its own exchange, ADX has its own exchange, and there are certain other multi-asset exchanges in Dubai and in the free zones. But talking about ADX, this illustration here is significant for us when we put ourselves in the face of the global capital markets. This is the ranking of the global exchanges, the top 25 global exchanges, and most of you will be surprised to know that ADX stands at the 21st rank in this year, 2023, amongst the global peer exchanges, and we are ahead of exchanges in Mexico, Spain, Thailand, and even Singapore. I'm sure for most of you, this is quite enlightening because it was even for myself when we got to know how far we have come. And most of this growth, you will see, has been led by significant government initiatives and the momentum that we have seen in terms of government divestments and the IPO listings. Now, just giving you the overview of ADX in terms of numbers, we were established in the year 2000, but in the year 2018, we were shifted to ADQ. ADQ is one of the most recent and a large sovereign wealth fund managing over $300 billion. We are now 100% owned by them. And ADX, in terms of our products and services, we provide different platforms for different asset classes. Currently, we have the equities platform, we have the ETF platform, we also have the derivatives platform, and we also offer debt instruments as listings. We've got in the main market, the number 79 that you see here is end of Q3. After that, we have listed 2 more companies. So we are 81 companies today, and we listed one of the very exciting IPOs today called Phoenix Group, which is into Bitcoin mining and crypto assets. And it is listed with a market cap of over $3 billion US. And its IPO gains stood at 36% at the end of the trading day today. So after Q3, we have listed 2 more companies. So we are now 81 companies overall in the equity segment. We've got 14 companies in the growth market, which lists smaller companies. We've got 42 debt instruments. We've got 14 indices with FTSE. FTSE and ADX create co-branded indices. In fact, last week at the Abu Dhabi Finance Week, we announced the launch in partnership with FTSE of our first sustainability index called the FTSE ADX ESG Screen Index in order to promote what the UAE is putting itself as a commitment for promotion of sustainability and good practices amongst the corporates. Also, we've got 10 listed ETFs in our segment. We've got 11 listed derivative contracts. We've got 5 custodian members, which are the large institutional banks, and we've got 3 market makers. This graph is basically illustrative of how the market has performed over 5 years. So it's basically January 2019 till November of this year. And you'll see in terms of regional context, the ADX market has been soaring high to the point that in the 5 years, our returns have been almost around 100%. And if you see from the bottom, which was reached in the March during COVID 2020, the market has actually gained almost 200%. We continue to grow in terms of our market size. Our market cap today stands almost at 2.9 trillion dirhams. And the target is to reach $1 trillion, which would be like 3.7 trillion dirhams. We are hoping to touch that figure maybe by end of next year, inshallah. Our traded value and our trading activity has also been growing significantly. We have more than quadrupled the trading activity in the last 3 years. And our market cap, as I said, has grown more than 5 times over the period of 5 years. It is also interesting that it's not only the regional context in which the ADX index has been performing, also in terms of the global context, if we see the 5-year returns, ADX is positioned second, next only to NASDAQ, which is basically the barometer of the emerging global economy, the new age economy. So when NASDAQ returned 104%, during this time period, ADX has returned 92% and slightly ahead of the Indian index Nifty, which has also been phenomenal in terms of its returns, and much ahead of countries like Japan, France, Germany, and even Saudi Arabia and the FTSE in the UK. So the ADX market is the second best performing market over a period of 5 years. Now, one thing that has been leading this phenomenal growth and this encouraging news has been the IPO landscape. The IPO landscape, as I said, the government started putting some of the gem companies out into the market through IPOs since the year 2021. We saw amazing IPOs coming in the year 2022, and this carried on this year in the year 2023. Our performance has been exceptional. If you see the IPO proceeds, in terms of US dollars for the current year, ADX has raised around 4% of the global IPO capital raised. And that is a significant amount for the exchange of our size, which has only 81 companies listed. So we are just behind the large exchanges in China and the US and next to India. And just to put the IPO market in perspective, while NSE in India combined with BSE were able to raise around 5 billion until November end of this year, the number of IPOs done in India were 256 compared to the IPOs in ADX, which numbered 5. This was the 5th one which listed today, and we have one more coming up. I hope we will end the year with around 5% of the share of the total IPO capital raised globally. Now that is phenomenal for a small exchange in an emirate of Abu Dhabi compared with the large global exchanges. Also, it's not just the capital raise, it's also the performance of the IPOs. While my colleague Nasreen is going to take more detailed approach on the IPOs and individual companies, I just thought I will put for you to have a snapshot of 4 IPOs that we did from 2022 till now. Americana Restaurants, which is into restaurants. ADNOC Gas, which is primarily a resource company in the oil and gas sector. Presight AI, which is a data analytics and AI company. Artificial intelligence, which is a topic which we just discussed. And ADNOC Logistics, which is more into shipping and logistics businesses. Now, all of these IPOs were subscribed any times from 50 times to 160 times. And if you see their performance in terms of price returns over the period of their listing, Americana has done around 29% since 2022 December. That is 1 year. ADNOC Gas has returned 38%. Presight AI has returned 90%. And ADNOC Logistics 89%. So these percentage returns are nothing but
fairly impressive for such large companies of the size of these companies. Now I will come to the ETF platform, which is one of the things which is very close to my heart. I think ETF as a product was one of the biggest invention in the financial markets. The first ETF came in the year 1993, when somebody came up with an idea of packaging the S&P 500 index, which has 500 companies, into an ETF product where a small investor could put $100, take the ETF of S&P 500, and basically get exposure to all the 500 stocks which constitute that index. And that innovation in 30 years back has now led to a revolution in the capital markets. Today, the ETF industry manages around $27 trillion in assets across different asset classes. ADX launched its ETF platform in the year 2022, but we had the first ETF listing in the year 2020. And then, since then, we have been growing to the point that today in the region, we lead with 45% of the total listed ETFs and with the maximum amount of trading happening in the ETFs. What makes the ADX ETF platform interesting is the fact that it is becoming fast the hub for accessing different markets on the same platform. So our set of 10 ETFs currently give you access to markets not only in the UAE and the region, Saudi Arabia and Kuwait, but also as far as the US market with the thematic US growth ETF, the US value stock ETFs, and also in countries like Turkey, Hong Kong listed China shares, as well as Pakistan. And to make it more spicy for the audience out here, very soon we will be enabling investing into India via the ETF platform with the listing of an India-based ETFs. Yes, this news is very exciting even to my heart, because I began my career with the Bombay Stock Exchange in India, and I was part of the launch of the first ETF in the Indian market with ICAI at that point in time. And I believed that the ETF product is something that will engage the global investment community in a big way. But here at ADX, what we see is that it's a fledgling market. We've just introduced it a couple of years back, and this is part of the asset class where we want to put our maximum resources in terms of creating awareness and providing education to the investors so that they can all include ETFs as part of their portfolio. Now, what is more beneficial for somebody to have a single account with an ADX broker and then get exposure to so many different countries sitting here in the UAE? This is the list of the performance of the 10 ETFs when they were listed. What is the number of holdings, what index they follow, what are the assets under management. And you would typically see that between different countries on a yearly basis, you will find that one country is doing really well, another country is not doing so well. So it is a classic example of how you can use different ETFs in the portfolio to juggle your portfolio and balance it in a manner that you feel gives you the right diversification. And also, if you are an analyst yourself, or if you have advisors who can tell you which particular countries are going to perform better, you can choose and pick from the ETFs which are available on the ADX ETF platform. This is a snapshot of the type of holdings that the ETF has. So I've put 3 snapshots. The first one is of the China listed shares. If you see the top 10 holdings, you have companies like Tencent Holdings, Alibaba Group, BYD, the EV manufacturer, which is also issued its cars in the UAE now. And what you get is a bouquet of companies which are giving you access to the Chinese internet opportunity. Now, China internet opportunity is very different from the NASDAQ opportunity, because China as a country has almost banned most of the websites, which are very popular globally, like Facebook and other e-commerce sites like Amazon in their own countries. So they have homegrown websites and e-commerce platforms that are significantly large in size and multi-billion-dollar companies in themselves. So an ETF like this, which is based on the China-listed Hong Kong-listed China companies, gives you access into these internet opportunities. Also, if you look at the UAE ETF, you get the best of the breed companies in the telecom sector, Etisalat, you get the utilities companies, Diva, you get Alzar Properties, MR Properties, ENBD. So all the companies which are liquid and leaders in their sectors are packaged into a single product, and you can buy that product and get the entire exposure into that country. I come to the last segment, which is derivatives segment, which is the most fledgling segment, I would say. It is the smallest. We started in November 2021 with 5 stock future contracts on the segment. We expanded in the year 2022 to include 5 more. Today we have got 10 stock futures and 1 index futures based on the FTSE ADX 15 index, which is called the FADX 15. This year, we have consciously put in abeyance the launch of new contracts on the derivatives segment, and there is a reason for that. The exchange is currently undergoing an upgrade of its technological systems. So we are upgrading our systems to make it an integrated trading system, which will include all the asset classes. Currently, the derivatives segment and the contracts are traded on a standalone platform, and this does not completely integrate with the way the market wants to see the market data and the way the participants want to connect and participate in the market. We are expected to deliver the core platform upgrade project by the end of Q1 in 2024, and you are going to see significant expansion of the derivative products in the second half of next year. What we plan to do is these are some of the names of the stocks which are available as stock futures. We also, by the way, have 3 market makers who continuously provide quotes on these contracts. We've got 4 brokers, including Al Rams, International Securities. We've got BHM Capital, which are providing access to the derivatives market. And these are the stocks on which currently the contracts are available. Now, we have a roadmap planned for expanding the derivatives market. Just to give you the context, when derivatives were launched in India in the year 2000, I was there at the Bombay Stock Exchange. It took India 4 to 5 years, to get people to understand what derivatives are and for normal investors to start participating in them. And for that, we have created a roadmap at the ADX as well. So from the next year, when we start introducing new products, we want to expand the bouquet of derivative contracts to include regional futures, as well as futures on stocks based in Dubai, on indices based on the region. And then we want to introduce commodity futures like based on gold and oil. We also want to introduce options as a product. Some of you who might be delving in derivatives in India would be knowing that options is a very, very versatile product and flexible product specifically for people who like to day trade or who like to trade in the short term. And then when we move to the last phase, we would be expanding the option segment to include other regional product options. We would also like to introduce interest rate and fixed income derivatives on the exchange platform. Finally, I come to the investor engagement. For us at ADX, there are 2 building blocks. One are the institutional investors, which are very key for our markets to grow in depth and size. And second are the retail investors who are equally important because they add a lot of day liquidity, and the trading volumes and the breadth of trading is dependent on retail investors. Now, what we are seeing globally is that during the COVID times, when a lot of people were working from home, a lot of people lost their jobs, there was a resurgence of retail investors like never seen in the history of the stock markets. Just to put things in context, a market in India, which is so huge, more than $4 trillion in market capitalization, only 2.5% of the Indian people used to invest in equities until the year 2020. And from 2020 till 2023, November, now we are close to 4.7%, which is almost like a 90% growth in the number of investors who have started participating, opened demat accounts, and started participating in the stock markets. This speaks volumes about the fact that the COVID actually led people to doing something else, and while they were sitting at home, some of them started trading, some of them opened accounts, and they started to like and understand the markets. And that has led to a huge surge in retail investors to the point that we saw that NASDAQ has been growing and expanding and surging because of the retail power. And whenever the institutionals come to sell, the retail, the retail might holds them. And the same phenomenon we are seeing in the Indian markets as well. In the last 3 months, FI sold $10 billion worth of stocks in India, and the index is now touching all-time high every day. This is nothing but the power of retail investors who, through systematic investment plans and money which is vested with mutual funds and through the stockbrokers, have balanced the market with the institutional investors. When we see the UAE markets and the regional markets in general, the UAE market is very institutional dominant, both in terms of the holdings of our stocks. The institutions dominate with a very high percentage. And when we see the investors in terms of the percentage of investors participating in the market, there also the institutional participation is very high. What ADX is doing now is consciously creating that awareness. We're making it simple and creating an education mission for more and more retail investors and HNIs to be able to participate, open accounts, and then participate in this market. A part of this surge will be led by the attractive IPOs, which have brought ADX in the limelight, and there are a lot of new opportunities which will be coming up in terms of products. If you see the number of new investors, till date, we have added around 44,500 new investors this year, and we hope to close the year by close to 50,000 new investors. And next year, inshallah, it will be a very, very big year, because I think we are at the cusp of an exponential growth in terms of number of investors who have now started to understand that ADX is providing a new engine for growth and diversification. Benefits for NRIs, of course, the audience here would be more keen on this. Chairman John has already alluded to all the points that I have here, but without the risk of repeating myself, I will endorse these points. But the salient feature here is that the major benefit for you all to join ADX is the diversity of the products. While I explain to you the benefits of investing through the ETF platform, right, there are two clear opportunities and a reason for everybody to be a participant on ADX. First is the blue chip IPOs that are coming in this market continuously. And secondly, it is the ETF platform that through one account, you will be able to invest in the benign tax environment that we are, multiple regional markets, and also invest in some of the best emerging global themes. Now, from a tax perspective, those of you who invest in India, including myself, tax has always been a pain, because we have got multiple layers of tax in India. We have the personal income tax, we've got capital gains tax. You also have a transaction tax. Every time you trade in India, your transaction is taxed. And then you also have taxes on dividends. None of these taxes are applicable on ADX, right? So it's a big, big, big advantage from a tax perspective. Also from a long-term perspective, specifically when you're sending your savings back into India to invest in the capital markets, the picture here on the currency depreciation side says the entire story. So if you see from 2003 to 2023, in 20 years, the rupee has depreciated by 82.5%, which means that your money is literally halved, right? So when you send money back home, you have to fight against the taxation, so you need an additional bang on your return. You are also fighting a depreciating currency, so you need an additional return. While if you plowed a level of your investments and savings through ADX into different markets, none of these taxes would apply. None of the currency depreciation risk would apply. So over and all, it's a very, very encouraging and optimistic future coming in for the ADX, and I encourage you all to look at the opportunities here. I will also show you that it's very, very easy to participate in ADX. When all of you are sitting on your desk, there is a card where you see a barcode on the ADX card. This will help you download the SAMI app, which is our investor app. And all of you, as you are used to, opening accounts through apps using the UAE Pass access, it's as simple as that. And without telling you how to do it, let me play this 30-second video. So it's as simple as putting your account details, of your bank, and through the UAE pass, your entire personal information is taken, and then you can just fill an application, it is confirmed. How you actually open an account with a broker. So when you use the SAMI app, you get a national investor number, which is compulsory to participate in the ADX. All the investors in ADX at an individual level are assigned a national investor number, or what we call as the NIN. So this is the process of actually obtaining a NIN. It's very, very simple. Once you have obtained a NIN, you can participate in the IPOs. ADX has made it very, very simple to participate in the IPOs. Before I end with a word of wisdom from Warren Buffett, let me tell you that ADX has got an e-IPO portal, which most of the brokers and banks have integrated. So whether you have an account with a broker or you have an account with a bank, you can easily apply into IPOs with a bank account through the bank portal, because most of the large banks are integrated in the e-IPO portal, making it very, very simple. It's very similar to how you apply in the IPOs in India. I would like to end this presentation with the words of wisdom from the sage of Omaha, Warren Buffett, who says, to make money in stocks, you must have firstly the vision to see them, the courage to buy them, and finally the patience to hold them. Thank you very much.